It all began on an ordinary afternoon. One of those days when I returned home from the gym, feeling utterly spent and in dire need of a shower. The house was eerily quiet as I stepped inside. I found myself alone. My mum and sister absent from the familiar surroundings. It was just me, and though it was nothing out of the ordinary, the silence had settled in like an old friend since my dad's passing 5 years ago. I had grown used to the stillness that enveloped the house without him, and while it didn't bother me much, it was simply the way of things now. So, as was my routine, I made my way to the bathroom, feeling the sweat from my workout beginning to cling to my skin. In my rush, I suddenly became aware that I had forgotten to pick up any clothes to slip into after my shower. I felt the sense of calm wash over me. After all, the house was empty. I considered it for a moment, thinking, why even try? I'll wrap this up in just a few minutes. While they will still be at it, I'll return shortly. I left my clothes scattered throughout the house and headed straight for the bathroom. The warm water enveloped me, a soothing embrace that swept away the fatigue of my workout. I lingered a bit longer than usual in the shower, relishing the tranquility, not rushing, believing I had all the time in the world to unwind. Yet, unbeknownst to me, time was poised to take an unexpected twist. As I finally emerged from the shower, completely bare, I found myself utterly unprepared for what awaited me. I stepped back into the living room, anticipating the same stillness and emptiness that had greeted me upon my arrival. Instead, there were my mum and sister sitting on the couch, their expressions mirroring my own shock at the sight of them in the living room. Where I had left my clothes just moments ago struck me like a ton of bricks. My heart paused for a fleeting second. We were frozen in that awkward moment. I hadn't expected anyone to be home, and certainly not to walk in on them while I was totally naked. The silence stretched on for what felt like forever. I could see the surprise in their eyes and maybe even a little amusement. I couldn't form a single word. I grabbed my clothes in a frantic panic, feeling more embarrassed than I ever had, and dashed toward my room. My face burned red from the most awkward and embarrassing situation of my life. In a blur of panic, I locked the door behind me, trying to process what had just happened. My mind raced. How could I have been so careless? I was mortified, and though my family was understanding afterward, the embarrassment never fully faded. It's been about a week since that moment, and for a while I convinced myself that everything was fine. I told myself, maybe they had forgotten, or just moved past it after all. It was a one-time or awkward situation, and life has a way of getting back to normal. But even though I tried to put it behind me, there was something lingering. Something that didn't sit right. It felt like there was an unspoken tension in the air, a lingering presence like a shadow that never fully left. And after seeing the way my sister acted around me lately, I started to wonder if they really had forgotten, or if maybe they hadn't. I was sitting in my room, lost in the virtual world of the video game. I was playing. The sound of buttons clicking and the rush of in-game action filled the space around me, offering a brief escape from the awkwardness that had been hanging over me. I wasn't thinking much about what had happened here earlier until I heard the door creak open. I turned to see my sister standing there, a mischievous grin on her face. She stepped into the room and I gave her with a swift smile. I found myself half expecting her to dive into a conversation about something entirely off topic, as she often did. But this time, rather than veering off course, she began to playfully banter with me, her laughter echoing through the air as she playfully teased me about something silly, just like she always did. At first, it seemed innocent enough, a light-hearted banter we had exchanged countless times over the years. Yet, there was something different in the air, the way she was behaving now. It was clear she wasn't merely joking or laughing with me. Her touch carried a deeper significance. Often, there was a sense of prolongation, as if she were testing some limits. Initially, I wasn't fully ready for it, believing it to be just another aspect of the typical sibling relationship. Perhaps she was merely, in our playful days, just like we often were with each other as we grew up. We always found joy in our time together, from harmless roughhousing to simply sitting and sharing laughter over inside jokes. It was the kind of experience that filled our hearts with warmth. The connection we shared was warm and inviting, a sense of ease enveloping us. Yet, as she drew nearer, her hand gently grazing my shoulder or back while she leaned in to whisper, and the unexpected flutter began to stir within me. There was an unsettling quality to the touches. They weren't harsh or out of place, yet they carried a weight of intention, a purpose that felt more pronounced than before. It was as if a subtle change had taken root, leaving an undeniable sense that something had transformed since that moment. Perhaps I was simply lost in my thoughts, for after all, she was still my sister, and our bond had always been strong, close. Yet I couldn't shake the small, persistent feeling in the back of my mind. It made me question whether things had changed, if I was merely imagining scenarios, or if there was something she was hiding. In an effort to convey her feelings without words, her laughter danced in the air as she playfully brushed my arm, teasing me about my gameplay. Yet, an undeniable shift had taken place, altering the very essence of our comfort. And this I had felt before seemed to be replaced with a strange unease, something I couldn't explain. I tried to focus on the game, but it was hard to ignore how her presence felt more intense now. It felt as though she was on the verge of unveiling a truth that lingered in the air, unspoken between us. The weight of the moment pressed down on me, and I found myself at a crossroads. Should I maintain the facade of normalcy, pretending that nothing had shifted, or was it wiser to confront the unacknowledged presence that loomed over us, despite the discomfort it might bring? As the moments unfolded, a sense of self-awareness washed over me, heightening my sensitivity to every subtle touch and fleeting glance. Curiosity gnawed at Muhat. Thoughts danced in Herman's mind. Was she simply being herself, or was there a deeper current flowing beneath the surface? Regardless, I pressed on, immersing myself in the world of my video. In the midst of my gaming adventure, I was completely absorbed, my attention fixed on the screen, unaware of the world around me. Suddenly, I felt her hand brush against my thigh. At first, it barely registered. I assumed it was just a playful accident, a little tease she often employed to draw me out of my gaming trance. But when it happened again, a subtle thrill coursed through me. A sense of unease began to swell within me, and by the third time, it became unmistakable. She was deliberately reaching over, her hand lingering in a manner that felt far from accidental. Finally, I pulled myself out of the game, the realization hitting me hard. "Mia, stop," I exclaimed, pushing away from her. As I turned to face her completely, my voice emerged louder and sharper than I had meant it to. The words lingered in the air, and I watched as her familiar mischievous smile faded, giving way to an unsettling silence that enveloped us. For the first time, I noticed a shift in her expression, a blend of surprise, perhaps even a trace of hurt. After all, we were siblings, intertwined by a bond that was once carefree and close. The bond that had always thrived on trust and playfulness now felt heavy in the thick silence. A strange tension began to build, something unsettling, as if an invisible line had been crossed. I found myself questioning everything about the moment. "What's the matter, Jay?" she finally asked, breaking the stillness. Her smirk returned, but now it carried an edge I hadn't seen before. "Can't take a little teasing?" Her tone held a subtle challenge, daring me to confront whatever had shifted between us. The lightness had vanished from her eyes, replaced by something deeper. With a deep breath, I steadied myself as I faced her. "You have to forget what you saw that day," I said firmly, attempting to slice through the tension that hung between us. I hoped those words would convey the urgency of our situation, that some things must remain buried in the past. Moments that were never intended to linger or alter our perceptions of one another suddenly shifted. She halted, striking a pose of mock indignation, arms crossed in a theatrical manner as her gaze bore into me. The usual sparkle of lightheartedness in her eyes vanished, replaced by a playful yet resolute stare. How could I possibly stop? How could I erase the memory of what I had witnessed? She teased, arching an eyebrow and flashing a smirk, tugging at the corner of her mouth. I had never seen anything quite like it. This was awesome. You have all these big things. And you're my brother. Don't you want to share them with me? Come on. Just let me try it already. I rolled my eyes, surprised. But she wasn't finished. She clearly had thought this through. Besides, she added, tilting her head as if preparing to deliver the final blow, Mom even said, she is eager to give it a shot. And my father lacked the courage to approach her. If you doubt me, just look at her confidence, as she employs her favorite tactique seeking my mum's approval. She understood that it would be difficult for me to counter that. I rushed over to my mum, stunned, nearly tripping over my own words. Mom, what on earth is she talking about? Did she really say that? My voice trailed off as I tried to process what I just heard. My mum looked at me, a bit taken aback but still composed. She gave a little chuckle and said, well, you know, she's actually right. I'm 55 years old, and believe it or not, I've never seen size like this before either. Until one day, she finally came to me. Her voice was, with a gentle yet resolute demeanor. She gazed at me, her eyes reflecting a blend of hope and sorrow. Come on, she urged. We're your family. We love you, and we want you to be with us. Don't shut us out. After a moment's pause, she inhaled deeply and added, it's been hard without your father. It has been 5 years since he left us, and I find myself carrying the weight of it all alone. I've done my best, yet there are countless moments when the burden feels too heavy to bear. Sundays stretch on, filled with a profound loneliness, and I long for someone to lean on. Someone who truly understands. I miss you dearly, and I know your father would have wanted us to remain close. As they stood close, ready to support one another, she cast her gaze downward for a moment, as if summoning the strength to continue. Then, with a voice now laced with urgency, she spoke again. Your sister, she's almost 23 now. Young, yes, but she's been facing her own battles. She's never truly had anyone to lean on, a boyfriend, a close friend she can rely on. She feels so alone. Her voice trembled with the weight of her words. Her grip on my hand was gentle, a comforting presence. We weren't asking for much. I assured her that it would be enjoyable, that it would rekindle that sense of belonging we all crave. I truly believed it was what she needed too. Her gaze held a quiet intensity, making the world around us feel suspended in time. And then, without any warning, she reached for the hem of my shirt, her fingers steady yet quick, slipping beneath the fabric and lifting it up. Before I could even grasp her intentions, my shirt was gone. Her movements were deliberate, yet there was a tenderness in them, as if she were acting on an impulse she herself didn't entirely understand. I stood frozen, my mind racing. Racing thoughts swirled as I tried to grasp the unfolding scene. Yet it felt as if my body had forgotten how to respond. Every delicate gesture she made, the gentle brush of her fingers against my skin, the subtle tilt of her head seemed to carry an unspoken message that eluded my understanding. Then, with a slow, almost deliberate grace, she began to unbutton her shirt, her hands moving with a careful intention, each button released. Her gaze remained locked on mine, and I could feel my heart racing, breath caught in a liminal space between shock and intrigue. Words escaped me, leaving me uncertain of what to say, or if anything needed to be said at all. Anything I should say. I didn't make a single move, unable to break the spell that had taken over the room. As she continued, a surreal atmosphere enveloped us, like we were both suspended in a place where words no longer held meaning, where actions spoke louder than anything we could possibly say. I wanted to ask her what was going on, wanted time to stand still, to understand the reason behind this sudden shift. But my voice felt trapped in my throat. All I could do was watch as she peeled. As I peeled away the last layers of clothing, each movement felt like a paradoxically yet impossibly fast, as if time itself was caught in a dance. I was still grappling with the whirlwind of emotions swirling in my mind. Curiosity, disbelief, and a hint of apprehension. Everything unfolded so rapidly, yet every second lingered, suspended in the air, leaving me in a state of wonder and confusion. The moment I laid eyes on them, and adorned, something within me shifted entirely. It was as if the world held its breath for a heartbeat, drawing my gaze to every detail of their bare skin, the way it caught the light. The soft curves and lines that told a story of their own seemed to beckon my touch. It wasn't merely an impulse but a gradual, insistent need that resonated in every fiber of my being, a craving that even caught me off guard. Thoughts of restraint began to fade, slipping into the background as a more primal urge stepped into the spotlight. In that moment, the only reality was the space between us and the undeniable pull I felt toward them. My mind was awash with vivid images of what it would feel like, a texture of their skin beneath my fingertips, a warmth I could almost sense radiating from them. It was a magnetic draw, both exhilarating and consuming, leaving me teetering on the brink of something profound. There was a feeling I couldn't quite name, yet it stirred a deep yearning within me. My heart raced, my breath quickened, and the desire to bridge that gap grew stronger. Every rational thought faded away, replaced by an overwhelming longing I had never felt so intensely before. The room around us slipped into the background, leaving only the three of us in this charged moment. It transcended mere physical desire. It was something profound, a connection that felt almost destined, as if every choice I had made had led me to this very instant. In that space, all I could focus on was the anticipation of a touch, the sensation, and the electric connection waiting to ignite between us. In a fleeting moment of hesitation, we plunged headfirst into the pursuit of our three deepest desires, barely pausing to ponder the consequences. Each urge, each concealed wish, surged forth, demanding our attention. The thrill and liberation of acting on them enveloped us, an intoxicating rush that whisked us away from any semblance of caution. It was exhilarating, freeing even, to silence the familiar voices of reason, the cautious whispers that might have restrained us. We found ourselves swept up in a whirlwind of powerful momentum, propelling us forward with every choice, regardless of recklessness. Each decision amplifying the exhilarating sense of freedom. We were forced to be reckoned with, untamed and unyielding, fueled by a heady blend of excitement, impatience, and perhaps a hint of rebellion. These long-held dreams danced in our minds, visions of a life we could claim if only we dared to pursue them without restraint. And now, as reality began to weave itself into our fantasies, it felt like a dream materializing before our eyes. Yet, in our fervor, we overlooked the ripples that our actions might create, the echoes that could return to challenge us. The consequences loomed like distant shadows, unwelcome reminders we chose to ignore. The future seemed to stretch out before us, patient and waiting, while we reveled in our fleeting freedom, as if time itself might pause just for us, allowing us to savor that moment. Every choice felt not only justified but essential, a vital thread in the tapestry of our unfolding story. What had been concealed within us was at last being released, and so we pressed on, propelled solely by the exhilaration of embracing all we had yearned for. We surged forward with hearts fully exposed, while our minds remained firmly closed to the possible repercussions of our choices.